Reyn was the end buyer. He was doing $10 million a month in spend.
To get to the level we were at, it took all hands on deck. There was no one sleeping. Everyone was grinding from day in, day out.
You don't want to be in our business. You don't want to just be a fucking lead vendor. You want to be a partner.
I took a piece of that pie, man. No one's knocking 50K off a next invoice except Stodolak.
Sometimes that right thing will set you back financially, but long term, it'll get you wins.
Some months you would take a loss. As a business owner, you don't have to win every month. You have to win the majority of months. You told me that. The hyper growth button is so attractive, but to push it is so scary. We've done that at Sunpro. I feel like this time it's going to be a little different travel, a little different route, more sustainable.
Shout out to our sponsors, because without them, this shit wouldn't be possible. Shout out to Ringba. Shout out to Adam Young, the paper call revolution. There's big, big money in paper call, whether you're someone who's a novice looking to get into it, whether you're someone who's already doing it, putting up big numbers. Let's fucking do this, guys. Get the fucking book on Amazon. We're going to drop a link here. Take your shit to the next level. Let's fucking go.
Guys, it's Boris. I'm on the LFG show. Don't forget, we have Contact.io coming up, the biggest and best show for call centers. If you're going to be in Denver, you need to use promo code LFG.
Let's fucking go, baby. Save $200. Put that promo code in. Get there. Make a lot of money. See Boris and I. Let's fucking make this happen.
We'll be there.
Yo, who that? We're in Abita Springs, right outside of New Orleans. Ready to film a fucking banger. This show's gonna be fucking dope. I got a fucking alligator here drinking beers and shit. I'm a little bit nervous. This thing's gonna come back to life. I went with my man, Reyn Rogers. This guy, I got a lot of history with this guy. I've known this guy about 6 years, and this has gone beyond business and transactional stuff. Has gone down to like family and a real friendship. And we're gonna talk about big numbers. And the other thing is that most of everyone that's been on our show, I think 90, probably 100%, is selling leads or some sort of product to an end buyer. Reyn was the end buyer. He was doing $10 million a month in spend, and he was one of my biggest client who helped Solar Direct grow tremendously. So it's really a pleasure to have you on the show, man. I mean that.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
And to be doing it here, and we're going to talk about stuff that goes beyond leads. Is going to go into creating a company with real enterprise value, and that's going to really help people make a lot of money and do something good for society. So, Reyn, pleasure to have you on the show, man.
Thank you, sir.
Yep.
Thank you.
So where are we now? We're in Abita Springs.
We are, yeah. This is Abita Springs. Not only Abita Springs, but Abita Brew Pub. So this is where the Abita beer comes from and everything. And this is kind of where we do our lunches at. And this is right next to the office. So yeah.
Yeah, it's cool. I didn't expect to come here. We're driving here, and we have to go across the causeway. That's how long is that? 28 miles? I don't even know.
That's a drive, man.
Yeah.
That's a drive. I think I did it every day for about 10 years. And man, it's a drive. It's a drive.
Yeah. So for everyone that doesn't know
Thank you for taking the trip.
No, you're welcome.
Thank you.
I wouldn't miss this for the world. But so first time I ever met you, I think, we talked, I don't know, it was 2018, 2019. Ruben Ugarte connected us.
Dude. Yeah. Ruben. Of all people. Yeah, Ruben.
Can you tell the story?
So the big thing about Ruben was he, as soon as I came into Sunpro, I knew I needed like a resource that could just help me like understand the metrics.
Yeah.
So I was like, I came from something different than solar.
What was it? Mortgages?
Foreclosures.
Okay.
So we were doing foreclosures, doing things like that, buying leads of people that are past due. And so as soon as I came into the solar industry, I immediately gravitated towards Ruben because I felt like he was one of the most like, from an industry knowledge standpoint, the guy just had it, the guy had it. So I asked him to fly in. He flew in. The first name he threw out was yours.
Wow. I didn't know that. I thought it was one of like 5 or 10.
No,
that makes me feel really good.
First name he threw out. He looked through our index. He was like, what are the vendors you're working with? What are you trying to accomplish? Stuff like that. And you were the first name he threw out. So wow. I think I reached out to you on the number he had given me.
You got either you or him FaceTime me, or when I was at Tony Robbins Business Mastery, hyped. I don't know if you remember. I was hyped up.
Yeah, you're right. You're right.
And like, yo, Ruben, like I can't talk now. Yo, I got someone I want you to meet. I'm like, bro, when I'm out of here, I promise you I'll call him. But I was all hyped up, man.
I knew it was something like that. There was some way we couldn't connect, and that ended up having to get on social media. I got on LinkedIn and found you.
Yes, I remember that.
I got on LinkedIn, found you, and you were going to a Yankees game. that night.
I think I was going to a Jennifer Lopez concert or something.
I think you were going to a Yankees game and you were going to stay. You were going to a suite where Jennifer Lopez was because she was like dating
Alex Rodriguez?
Yeah. I think she was dating Alex. Yeah.
A-Rod.
That's what it was, man.
Yeah. And I remember what happened was on my way back, man, listen, I can control my drinking, but I got hammered that night. I remember going back home on New Jersey Transit. I'm puking in between the turnstiles, man. My mother-in-law, whatever, man. I was like, fuck it, they're Colombian. They get it, man. But
dude,
anyway, that was funny, man.
I was like, look, we want to buy leads from you. I don't know what the process is. At that time, like, I mean, it was young in the company with Sunpro. We probably had 35 people in the call center. I think maybe spending 60 grand a day, like not a lot.
60 grand a day, not a lot. 60 grand a day, just that's like 1.2 million on 20 business days. If you're doing 7 days a week, which you guys were, that's 1.8 million. That's not shabby for an advertiser, even at that time.
Well,
but
I mean,
back then that was nothing compared to what you got it to.
Back then, I mean, like it was. I remember coming to the office and our CEO going, "You spent 60 grand today in leads?" You know, I'm like,
yeah. This is like what, July 2019?
Yeah, I was like, but we need the appointments, right?
Yeah.
Like you need the opportunities. You know, it's all going to back out. And so I remember reaching out to you at that time. We were really young in the call center. We probably had 35 people. Reached out, and you were like, "Yo, dude, we can stand this campaign up immediately."
Yeah.
And I was like, "Well, you don't even have posting instructions." You're like, "Oh, we'll get the calls to you. We'll send you the data via email and stuff like that." And so
I'm like, don't worry, I got it.
No, that's how it started out.
You're right.
You remember you're posting data to Dave Kircher, like via email, and you were sending calls to him and everything, and it just kind of snowballed from there, man. Like we grew the campaign to where it was, I think, like we had 35 people in the call center. We ended up growing it to 800 and spending about 300,000 a day, and it just snowballed.
So just to backtrack here, I got a comment from somebody that feels like sometimes on this show, it's more for people that know the industry when people that don't know the industry. Like I'm trying to try to break this down a little bit for like layman's terms. So Sunpro is a company based out of Mandeville, right? Is where it was based out of, or Louisiana. Started in 2008. Covington. I think Mark Jones was the owner. We're gonna have him on the LFG show soon. I'm fucking pumped about that. But I think he started this company out of his house, right? Like in 2008, 2009, something crazy like that.
Yeah. Just like a 2-person office, like right next to his home.
So they started at 2009 in their home. I knew about Sunpro, I think in 2016, you guys are in Louisiana, and most of my solar clients were in the Northeast, California, like the typical solar markets, right? I didn't know anyone in Louisiana at the time, but I knew that Sunpro at the time were in kind of some obscure markets, like the Arkansas and things like that, and that nobody else was in. So I was trying to get in. But I couldn't get to the buyer. I couldn't get the right person. And then when...
It was the piece of the puzzle everyone needed.
Yeah.
Like everyone else is playing the California markets, Northeast. I mean, you name it, they're there. No one's in the avoided cost markets.
Why do you think that was? Why was no one targeting those markets?
I mean, I think it's because by definition it's at avoided costs. Like I mean, you're selling to someone that it's very hard for them to get an ROI on this. It takes a long road for them to get an ROI.
Yeah.
So it's a different sale here. It's like, you're selling to the luxury side of it. You're selling to the consumer that wants a battery, that doesn't want their lights going off like when the power's out. We're in a hurricane-stricken area. So, I mean, there's a place for that, if that makes sense. Like where all these other people are just cost savings. Yeah. You go in Northeast, cost savings. Down here, you're selling the luxury of your lights not going out. Yeah. So there's a place for that. But it was the piece of the puzzle that no one else had. Like it was, so any other entity that wanted to have the complete map of the U.S., they just weren't preying on this area. So from an investor standpoint, the Southeast was very attractive to complete that puzzle.
Yeah, 100%. And then from a lead gen perspective, what made it appealing is that,
well, same thing. You don't have any buyers here.
Yeah, there were. I wasn't selling, or no one was really selling in these markets, right? And that's why I wanted to get in to these markets, but I couldn't find a way to get in. So going back, I had done business with Ruben in 2016, 2017, 2018, and he was tough, man. He would like, you're like, Dave, if you don't hit these numbers, we're going to stop the campaign. But he was tough, but he was also fair, right? But when I started hitting his KPIs, and I really cracked it with him on age leads, I remember I asked, he wanted a 2,000 CPA. My age leads were getting him 600, 800, especially in Massachusetts. We were fucking crushing it. So when he left Horizon Solar and he went to Active Prospect, he's a great networker in the sense that he only gets the best people together. He wouldn't connect me with you if I wasn't somebody that he knew was for real, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And sorry.
Ruben's probably the best connector in the industry.
Yeah, he's amazing.
I would say that.
Yeah.
Ruben is probably the best connector in the industry.
He's going to be on the LFG show soon too.
Is he as well?
Yes,
Yeah,
I'm pumped about that. But anyway, going back to that is that he connected us. So I know if he's connecting me with you, then it's a real deal. And plus I knew who Sunpro was. And then when we talked, you're like, oh, yeah, this is what we're going to do. I think you gave me $30,000 budget to start. It was like August 2019. I'm
sorry about that.
Okay, but to me that was good because most companies were fucking giving me $2 to $5K. I'm like, okay, I'll take it, but we need a little bit more bigger sample size.
I mean, that's not even a cost of. That's not. That's hard to run one CAC through.
Absolutely. I don't even know. I remember the states you gave me maybe 2, 3 states, and I was a little nervous because
I think that's like one of the hardest parts is like, when you start off a campaign, everyone wants to give you the hardest states. And if you're successful in the hardest states, then they'll expand the zip code with you. For me, I like to give a vendor an early win. I'd rather throw you in the best situation possible to get the lowest cost of acquisition and then start to grow the campaign with you. So I'm going to give you to my killers. I'm going to send you to my guys that I know are going to sell the easiest states, and then adversely we'll start to work backwards there.
I love that.
And I think that's why it worked so well for us.
Yeah,
is because I was like, dude, you need to feed our good guys, and then we catch some early wins, and then we start to expand the campaign. If you start the campaign in a bad area, you're going to start the campaign on a bad CAC, and then no one looks good. If you feed it to the guys that are going to sell, everything works out better.
100%. And that's, I try to train my team when you talking to a buyer, what are your best territories you're performing bestest? Give us those two, because we can't make it work there. We're not going to make it work anywhere.
Yeah.
It's the same concept. So you gave us, I think, 2 states. And it was interesting because I was used to operating in the Northeast in California. And there, we will sell a lead, and if someone did a same day, next day appointment, they will get the sale pretty fast, and we will know within a week or 2 if this thing was working. There was a quicker sales cycle in those markets. Yeah. Your markets were longer. It was like 2 to 4 weeks. So I remember off that 30 grand, you didn't have a sale off of 2 weeks. I'm like, I'm fucked. We're not going to be able to scale this. And then all of a sudden, you weren't worried about it, I guess, because you knew it, man.
Yeah. It's understand the metrics. You know, it's like, we preach and preach and preach. It's a 10 to 14 day sales cycle. When you look at it on an average, you have guys that are out there 90 days. You also have guys that are out there that are going to sell same day. Yeah. Same thing with appointment setting. You're going to have your, every appointment you set, if I set 100 appointments today, 30% of those appointments are going to fall next day. Another cohort of those appointments are going to fall within the next 3 days. Another cohort of those appointments are going to fall within the next 7 days. Find the metrics on each one of those days. What's my close rate on day 1? What's my close rate on day 3? What's my close rate on day 7? And that's why I wasn't so scared about it, is because Dave, you're feeding me leads. Those appointments aren't set out till 7 days from now. 7 days from now, I'll start the clock on a 12, 14-day sales cycle. It's like it is a process. Once you understand the metrics, I feel like it eases the mind, the side of hey, this guy's not doing well. Yeah. You know what I mean? We got to cut him off. We got to cut him off immediately. It's like, no, man, give this guy his 45, 60 days and start to recognize and realize those sales. You know?
And that's what you did for us. And I remember being nervous, damn, I finally got in the door. Ruben referred me. I feel like I'm letting Ruben down. I feel like I'm letting you down. I feel like I'm letting my company down.
And you were pumping us too.
Yeah. I was starting to pump you guys, but the sales aren't coming. Fuck this. Because in lead gen, every campaign has a shelf life. There's only a matter of time before it's going to end for whatever reason, right? And we'll talk about why ours ended, which was for really a good reason. But at the end of the day, I was nervous. I'm like, this shit's not going to last. We're not getting past the 30. They got 0 sales. This is a fucking disaster. What's going on? But then I remember one day I looked at and I would look at the dispositions all the time. I was like, this is when I was really in the weeds. And I remember one day you guys got 2 sales in one day, and they were big sales. Like you guys had an average, like in the Northeast, the average ticket size, maybe 7.5 kilowatts, maybe a $30,000 deal. You guys had like 40,000, 48,000, 58,000. So I'm like, fuck, that's good.
Well,
and then the next day you got 4 in 2 days. I'm like, all right, now we're talking.
From a vendor standpoint, though, I feel like you're more analytical than most. Like
you got to be though. In my game, you have to be, because if it's not working for you, it's not going to work for us. We can't scale the campaign.
Well, to take it to the cost per kilowatt is something that's like probably more progressive and adaptive than other vendors. Like you talking about that and saying like you sold a 10 kW system, you sold an 8 kW system, things like that. There's not a lot of vendors out there that are working on a cost per watt.
Yeah.
You know, most people are saying, okay, well, you had, I spent 50 grand. I had 10 sales. I got a 5K.
5K,
yeah, CAC. That's what it is. You know, working on a cost per watt just speaks to the progressiveness of like what you do. You know what I mean? And understanding that. You know,
and we talked about that too. Yeah. You're willing to talk to me like, listen, this 10K, but when you think about it, that's almost like getting this 1.5 systems. Yeah. Is what it comes down to.
Like it is. Yeah. Like that's very like progressive and adaptive compared to other lead vendors. Like lead vendors, like we don't have a lot of partners that are doing that. They're just dividing CAC by the amount of sales they got, you know? And I think that just speaks to like how you work like creatively with your partners. Yeah. You know, it's like, it's not a, it's not just a vendor relationship. It's a partnership.
Yeah.
You know?
And that's I love that you said partnership, because that's eventually what came out of this. And then that template is what we use to this day with other groups. That's a template that works. And then so that you started to get some sales. I don't know. Our CAC went from it was 30,000 to like 4,000, somewhere reasonable. And then like, okay, now we're going to give you another 50 grand, 100 grand. I forgot. We started scaling. And then what was really a light bulb moment, it was like right before COVID. What's the guy in Oklahoma? Tiger King? Was that the fucking guy? He was on Netflix. It was a Tiger King, right?
Yeah,
so
Tiger King.
Anyway, you guys are like, yo, I'm going. You gave me Arkansas zips and Oklahoma zips. Like, who the fuck is doing solar in Oklahoma? Who's doing solar in Arkansas?
It was popping off.
That was crazy.
Yeah.
And I remember, I'm like, no one's gonna buy solar in Oklahoma. So I remember, like, when that show came out, all of a sudden we were popping. And I thought there was a correlation. I'm like, this Tiger King must be doing some fucking shit. But I watched it. He did nothing for solar. Yeah. I don't know what but like the point is that
social media engagement.
Yeah.
You know, he created.
But we were popping. Our CAC in Oklahoma was like great. But I really think it came down. You guys had some killer sales guys, sales manager, sales team there. Yeah, is what made it work. But that was beautiful.
Our timing was impeccable, no matter what you did. You know what I mean? It doesn't matter like what exactly. Tiger King, we couldn't have placed it better.
I don't know. Yeah, who was being? If there was, it was
doesn't
lucky.
Matter.
The harder you work, the luckier you get. Yeah, we were working hard. We got fucking lucky. Tiger King came out. He went to jail. Whatever.
You know, I try to cascade that to my employees now. It's like, you know, in the early stages, like we were like, anytime you got an email, I would pull over on the side of the road. Like my whole family would stop to respond to that email immediately. You know, like it was that pressured at that point, you know, always, you know, to get to the level we were at, it took all hands on deck. You know, there was no one sleeping, you know, it was, everyone was grinding from day in, day out, you know, and, I think it showed, you know, like when we worked with you, I don't think there was ever a company that provided better disposition feedback or anything like than we did. Was
no,
it?
you did. No, you had the real time, and I was like a band. Every day, I was almost like a freaking crack addict, clicking, or like a trader, clicking all the time to see if you got another sale. Because
what other vendor could you do that with?
And the reason why I did it, because I knew where Sunpro was going.
Yeah,
I knew that Sunpro, because I saw it. I saw it with Momentum Solar when I was there. They went from 30 to 100 to 2,000. And I saw the numbers. I'm like, this is going to happen again.
No one had that, man.
Yeah.
Like, I know that we're getting off script, but I mean, it was just one of those things where it was like, dude, we were next level, you know? And to have that and to implement that, like, I just feel like that was a big game changer.
And it's huge because in my line of work, it's like anything in business, your customer, I mean, that's your livelihood. The better your customer does, the better you do. We're all connected here, right? If I can get that feedback, and you're busy, I remember there's times I would call you and like you're probably meetings, and it would take you like 4 or 5. I knew I didn't take offense. I knew he's fucking busy. He'll get back to you. But by us having access to that reporting, we didn't have to really talk to you. We can see what's working, what's not working. I would contact you if I saw something wasn't working. I remember one time in particular, there was one state, I think it was Arkansas, we were doing terrible there. Our CAC may have been 10K, but Oklahoma was 2K. I'm like, Ren, I'm going to pause. I just chose to pause it myself. I'm pausing Arkansas.
Those are the best vendors. Those are the best vendors that aren't going to pump an area that they know isn't working.
Because I'm not looking for short-term gain to fuck up my long-term. I'm looking for long-term. I remember you saying that you told the CEO at the time, hey, listen, Solar Direct, or I give you like a refund. I did something like, and he was shocked.
Yeah.
And that made me feel great that it got all the way up to CEO, because then I got some brownie points like, wow, this guy, you don't want to be in our business. You don't want to just be a fucking lead vendor. You want to be a partner. Yeah. Because the better you do, the better we do. We're all connected. And that's essentially what happened. We became like essentially partners to the sense that you guys grew. And this is my best example. And I don't know if you know the story, but when COVID happened, I think it was March 2020, man, there was, all my fucking companies were paused. There were even like in New York, man, like the Trinities, the Momentums, the big companies.
And we
were
like, buy.
Yes, but it took a while to get there, because even like the governor in New York's like, listen, don't call anybody. It's COVID. There were laws. You couldn't even fucking telemarket. Yeah, so I think you guys paused for a little bit, but then you call me one day. You're like, Dave, we have 50 vendors. And I think at that point you guys were doing, I could be wrong. You might be doing 1,000 sales a month. Big numbers, maybe 300 million a year, 200, 300 million a year. Big numbers, especially for solar. It's only like fucking 2% of companies doing that.
Probably COVID was around 1,000 deals a month.
But I think that's where you guys were at.
Yeah.
You call me, and I think the day you call me, I was thinking, and I was about to tell my wife, listen, you're about to go. You have to go back to work. I'm going to find a fucking job. This Solar Direct is not going to work anymore because people aren't buying leads. You spoke with me. You're like, Dave, I have 50 vendors, and I thought you were going to give me some bad news. I got to stop you, whatever. We have to, whatever. And like, I'm only keeping 5. You're one of the 5 we're going to keep. And you said, you remember that day?
Yeah, man. Dude, I do.
That was fucking huge for me, man, because I just had a baby in 2019.
The thing is, like, what you spoke about, though, like every other vendor doesn't treat it as a partnership. Yeah. You know, it's like, oh, we're buying from them and we have a relationship, but it's not a partnership. Yeah. You know, it's like with you and I, it's like, you understood that as a business owner, you don't have to win every month. You have to win the majority of months. You have to be profitable the majority of the months to be a profitable business. Mm-hmm. So like some months you would take a loss. Yeah. Like there would be like off months that we're taking a loss, you know, but I mean, it's like some months you take a loss, but as long as the majority of the months you won, you understood that. Yeah. And I felt like that was like, anytime you can create, you remember you used to always say the win-win. Yep. It was like, anytime you can create that win-win, it was, I mean, there's no other vendors doing that. Like if I call someone, I'm like, man, look, 10 of these contracts ended up backing out, so our CAC just skyrocketed. And you're like, you know what? Well, knock 50K off the next invoice. Yeah. It's just like no one's knocking 50K off a next invoice except Stodolak.
Age data. There's only a few months left of this.
A lot of different ways to monetize data. Data is a very broad term. There's a lot more money in it. You already spent the money. Let's just say it cost you $10 for a Medicare lead. You make $1 million in sales, you really only made $100,000.
And you might not get paid by your advertiser.
What if I can get an extra 50 cents, $1, $2, $3 per lead in perpetuity? What does that do to my marketing campaign? What does that do for the stress of the profits of my company? A percentage or two at those kind of numbers are huge as moving the needle. So for us, what I love about age data, the hard part's already been done. Now it's just a revenue left for your company. What would the extra 10, 20, $30,000 a week do for your business?
Absolutely.
All of our big partners are making hundreds of thousands, if not millions a year with us. They're never going to have this gold rush again.
So it was just, I mean, you want to work with those people. I don't know if you do that with everyone, but I mean, like,
when it's a good relationship and when there's meat on the bone, everybody can win. Yeah, that's what we did. And I think that, when I would do things like that, it felt like the right thing to do. Sometimes in business, you got to do what's the right thing. Yeah. And sometimes that right thing will set you back financially, but long term, it'll get you wins.
That's it.
Right?
As long as you're winning the majority of the months, you're profitable. Yeah. And you understood that. And actually, like I took a piece of that pie, man. I've carried that with me for a long time now, like since we've started. And it's like, every month, every transaction, I don't have to win. You told me that. I just needed I need to win the majority of them.
I love it. That's awesome.
So
Yeah, no, and thank you for that. And I can't emphasize how that moment was I talk about these LFG moments. That was like an LFG moment for me. Okay, Ren gave me a shot. We got to fucking come through. So I had a small team at the time. Maybe it was 5 of us. And we started cranking the leads, and you guys were closing leads. You guys went from, one thing I always say, especially in solar, you see in home improvement, like a lot of campaigns are nationwide campaigns. Yours were more regional. You know, you were in certain, I think when I started working, maybe you were 7, 8 states, but you started adding more states, Oklahoma, Arkansas, Kansas. I didn't know anyone doing solar in Kansas.
Man, we
Nebraska.
got to like 30 states.
Yeah,
you know?
30 states. And then I always told my team, listen, every time our clients add a new state, we just got to fucking raise.
Yeah.
So we got to deliver. And it's not like, you know, we got to raise. We got to if you're going to spend $100 with me, I got to be able to give you back 2, 3, 4, 5x. If I don't do that, the other guy's going to do it. I got to be one of those top vendors. So we always did what we could to always give you that value, man. And so you guys were just a rocket ship, man. You just kept growing and going and going and going. And it was funny because I visited you guys in New Orleans. I don't know when. I think it was October 2019. I came to the call center. I think you had 35, 40 agents. And then every time we would talk, you added more. You went to 80 agents, 100 agents, 200 agents, right? And every time you added agents, that meant that you had more mouths to feed.
Yeah,
you had more and more stress.
900 agents.
900 agents. So
Yeah.
I'm like, Ren, this is what you got to do. You need to buy age leads. You need co-reg. You need share.
Oh,
you need
we were
real
so
time.
diversified at that point.
You get every piece of the pie. And that's the key. When you have a client that's growing like that, if you're selling just real-time exclusive leads, why can't they buy age? Why can't they? So you Spanish that crush it.
I think you did the best part is like you helped us in our call center digest those leads.
Yeah.
So our inbound team, you helped us create our inbound team. You said you need a high intent outbound team. You need a low intent outbound team.
Different scripting for all of that.
Different scripting, different dialer. I mean, our high intent might have been on 5.9. Our low intent might have been on someone like a Comboso, you know, like, you know, a power dial, something that was like a rotational DIDs. Like you came in and you nurtured the account and you instilled like all of those educational points to allow us to work the lead properly. Like if you would just gave us an aged lead from any other vendor, like I can name a ton, but to buy an aged lead from a vendor and not know how to work it properly, you're never going to derive the right cost of acquisition.
100%.
You came in, you flew in, you taught us how to work that lead, and it changed everything for us. So.
And that's what you got to do as any partner. You want a product. You want your client to do the best job possible. You want the better you do, the better we do, right? So these were ideas that were intended to like, listen, I got the template. I've been doing this for a long time. You know, follow this lead, and then
you had the playbook.
I had the playbook. And you guys
came
followed
in,
the playbook.
We ran the playbook. We went in the huddle and we were like, hey, look, this guy gave us a playbook.
Yeah,
Listen, we got to run this.
Yeah, and what happened was my competition did better too. They all won because of this. And I don't give a fuck. Like some people are like, oh, fuck the competition. We all should win. Why? If he wins, I win, we all win. And that's what happened. We all rose, right? So
yeah.
And I love that because I mean you got stories. You have people that saw you leads like they thanked you for getting their kids into private schools, like
dude,
crazy shit, right?
Yeah. But I mean, like again, like those partners, like I mean, a lot of them are hit and miss. You know, there's not a lot of people that have stayed around year after year like yourself.
Yeah.
You know,
I
and
appreciate
I
that.
think those guys are the people that really invest in their clients, nurture the relationship, come in, like, you know, spend time with them, like break bread with them, do all of those things. I think it's hard to quantify, but there's a tangible value there. You know what I mean?
You gotta go above and beyond. And we're in a competitive, life's competitive.
Yeah.
You know, this doctor's competing with that doctor. How do you get that person to go visit you or to go solar with you versus this person? You got to have some sort of edge, whether it's a charismatic edge, whether it's getting the results edge. And my whole philosophy, you combine all of that shit, boom. And for us, it was a relationship. We had a good relationship. You would talk to me, we'd figure out, because you knew that if I gave you better leads or I tweaked, you helped me tweak stuff on my end too.
Well, like, I think it helped because I come from the data, like the analytical side.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I was the first analyst ever hired by Sunpro. Yeah. And so I kind of moved. So I was an analyst and they were like, okay, well, what's our highest cost of acquisition? Or what's the biggest hurdle? And it was lead spend. So then they immediately said, okay, well, now you manage lead spend. Mm-hmm. you know, and that's how that all happened. It was like, I wasn't supposed to be in that role. It was like, it was our biggest expense, and I needed to manage it and try to find out a better way to make it work.
It's funny because going back to that first conversation when I was going through the Jennifer Lopez thing, you told me that on the phone, and I forgot that you told me that because I just naturally assumed that.
Yeah, I was like,
you're
this
just
is our
doing-
biggest expense. I got to cut it.
Yeah, and you did a masterful job of it. I
Yeah.
mean, you were able to get the vendors, and you gave everyone a shot, but then, you know, when you had to cut them loose, you cut them loose, and you kept the best ones on board.
Well,
Yeah.
I think it like gave us a good roadmap moving forward. Like in this new entity, what we're doing is like a lot of cost per sale.
Yeah.
You know, like we're paying on a cost per watt if we buy if we do buy like a lead. And then on the other side, like we understand how to monetize a customer. You know,
Nice.
we dial nationally, and if there's ever a lead that falls out of our service area, we monetize it.
Yeah.
We're selling it to another installer. We're doing those creative things that Sunpro never really did.
Yeah.
So getting to see both sides of the coin kind of helps out. you know?
That's amazing, and I want
Yeah.
to talk about that. Before I go into that though, I want to fast forward. So we just talked about the COVID time when you kept us on board, right?
Yeah.
And then you guys really exploded after then. I mean, you went
we
to
did.
800
We
agents,
thought
yeah.
we thought virtual was the way to go.
Yeah, I remember that.
We thought virtual was the way to go, and then
Yeah.
everyone was doing that. Like everyone was hitting it, and then like
That's when that power was big. I haven't
we
heard about
actually
the
kind
one.
of understood that, like, you know, the homeowners that were going to go solar wanted someone in the house,
Yeah.
you know, and we just started sending people in the homes, you know, again. And
Yeah.
it was like, we did the extra confirmation call. We made sure the homeowner was okay with it and things like that. We wore a mask. We did everything we needed to do, but we sent those guys to the home. And I think it was the separator during that time. A lot of people were very hesitant to dispatch appointments to outside field sales.
Yeah.
But we did it. We immediately, I would say probably 6 to 8 weeks in, we just started dispatching appointments again and got right back on the road.
It was crazy. Like
Yeah,
that
we were the first.
Yeah, you guys definitely were. And man, again, you guys were a lifeline to me because again, I was nervous as fuck. I didn't collect money for 2 weeks from anybody.
Yeah.
And then you call me like we're ready to go. And then I was able to rise with you. Other solar companies started to come back into the fold. We did have a bunch of people trying to do virtual sales. They really couldn't make it work, but we sold them leads. But man, you guys were growing so aggressively that I'm like, hey, take Spanish leads, take age, take co-reg, and then they all started to work. All those leads started to work, man.
Yeah.
And you had an open enough mind to give it a shot. You were like, listen, if Dave's saying let's, and I would say, listen,
Well, it's just you had to work it correctly.
yeah, you got to work it correct, and that's what we worked on. So let's spend X amount on this, and if it doesn't work, fuck it, we try something else. But then we got them
Yeah.
all working. There were months where you guys were doing 150, 200 sales a month, and I'm talking about 5 to 10 million a month off of our leads and revenue and top line, you know?
Yeah.
And I was proud of that. I would look at those disposition reports, show it to my team with pride. And we started selling you transfers. We started a call center in South Carolina that's now in Columbia. That was all mainly because of working with you. And this is the beauty of business, right? About when you have partners, you know, we're on opposite sides. I'm selling you leads, you're the buyer, right? And the buyer is the one that holds the power. But I never felt that way with you. I felt like you understood that if we worked well together, we would all win. And that's essentially what happened. I mean, man, we made Inc. 500 3 times in a row, 3 years in a row. You guys were the number 2 residential solar installer in 2022, 2023, or 2021, wound up exiting to ADT Home Security, almost $1 billion.
Even
right?
Tren in their first year made number 50.
Wow,
Like,
that's incredible, man.
like for a solar installer.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I feel like we do have the playbook. We're running it correctly. And people like yourself are the testament to like why we're successful.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, like we would not be able to do it without great partners that are helping us like that. Someone that's willing to go and take a loss like on a month because they know next month they're making a win.
Yep.
You know, and going back to like working the lead, like, you know, we tap out. Like you might only have a certain number of live transfers that you can sell us in Louisiana. But then you might have a certain number of opt-ins that you can sell us in Louisiana, certain number of age data that you can sell us in Louisiana, and every single day something is coming new, and we just need to know how to work it, you know.
Yeah.
And you know, maybe we get a 50%, 70% set rate out of our live transfers. You know, I usually see that out of your data, and then we get a 20 to 30% set transfer out of your real time. We get a 3 to 5% transfer out of your, a 3 to 5% set rate out of your age data. You know, it's just knowing all the metrics of each funnel and then knowing how much you need.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the key. And you helped us get there. So.
Yeah. And it was a right marriage at the time is what it was. And then you found other guys like me that you can grow with. And that's what you have to do. It's like a piece of the puzzle. That's what business is. Everything, you know, you need a good CFO, you need a good CEO, you need a good sales VP. They all come together and you're like fucking, was it Voltron back in the day? What was it? You watched that show? What was that fucking show? I remember when I was a kid, we watched
Voltron.
Yeah, you remember Voltron?
No.
Man, I'm fucking old, man. Anyway, but it was like they all got together and Voltron would fuck everybody
Even
up.
our camera guys checked out now.
I'm Googling it.
Yeah, for Voltron.
He's like, I'm
Transformers. Everyone watch Transformers here? Yeah, but was it Voltron? Some bullshit. But the point is, they all get together. They become this unstoppable force, and that's what Sunpro was. Sunpro will go into a state, dominate that state, and then take the shit over, man. And then, and one thing that I'm proud of, that it went beyond just business and transaction. We became really good friends. I mean, on a friendship level.
Dude.
Yeah.
I mean, that was probably the best thing that came from this was the relationship aspect of it. It was like, you know, you're not just creating business partners, you're really creating real relationships. Like if someone wants you to have a win-win, you'll know it.
Yeah.
You know, like
you feel it in your gut, right?
Your families are prospering together.
Yeah.
Like if it's a true win-win, your families are prospering together. And I really felt that from you. You know, like I think you spoke to it just there, where, you know, we went to Disney World together. We vacationed together. Our kids. We talked about kids going to camp together, things like that. It's like it's one of those things where it's like, you know, you create something outside of business to where it's really a true win-win. You want to see the other family prosper, you know,
exactly.
And you know, we got into that when we were with Sunpro. Like, you know, as you bring people on, you want that family to prosper. So it's like, okay, we're gonna cash out at this point, and then all of a sudden you bring someone else on, and it's like, well, now we got to bring it to this point before you can cash out, because we got to make sure that they're okay, you know? And it's like, as you build your team and as you bring more people on, you have more like liabilities in a sense
100%.
where it's like, you know, you want to make sure they're okay. And I feel like you took that partnership on like full force, where it's like, I'm going to make sure he's doing well. And I'm going to make sure I'm doing well.
Yeah, if you're not doing well, I'm not doing well. I mean, what the hell? You
dude,
can't win.
I felt it.
Yeah.
It was like, you know, our kids are going to do well together, and we're going to do well together. We're going to vacation together. Our kids are going to camp together. They're doing everything. You know what I mean? It worked, you know? It really did.
To me, that's when it transcends business, becomes something bigger, right? And you talk about, you know, all these companies, Teslas and NVIDIAs and all these big companies. I mean, they're doing, at the end of the day, their product is not just a stock price. It's a product that's actually helping people's lives get better. Get another beer? Cool. Round two. We're going to them. We're stepping up to the margaritas in here.
We're editing.
Fuck it. All good, man.
All of a sudden, they just pop off and Ren has a new drink. And it's like, hey.
I love it, man. So anyway, we went to, I remember we went to Disney World together, right? And we were with our families. Talk about this transcends from business to something beautiful is what it comes down to. And this was right around the time, I think you guys had just agreed to be bought out by ADT Home Security.
Yeah.
It was I think it was an $800 million, $880 million acquisition. I think that was the second biggest acquisition in solar. Am I right? I know first was Vivint and Sunrun, or Sunrun Vivint, like $2.2 billion. Yeah. And this, to me, from my understanding, was the second biggest. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Yeah. So ADT Home Security, massive home security company, bought out Sunpro in I think 2021, right? Late 2021.
Yeah.
We went to Disney World in 2021 together with our families. It was my back then I had two kids, my wife, your wife, and your three daughters, right? Great time. And I remember, man, it was crazy because I never knew how much you were spending per day, but I remember you were like with your family, you're trying to manage to spend, and you're talking to someone on the team who came from ADT. And you're like, man, I got to spend $300,000 today. So you had to spend $300,000 on leads
every day.
Yeah,
I had to.
Think about that.
I had to spend $300,000 a day.
You spend $10 million a month.
I mean, look, if I couldn't find the leads, they couldn't find the appointments, and we couldn't get the sales. So it was like, you know, and it became a collective effort. You know, when we got to that point, we really had to bring on a lot of other arms. You know, like Colleen Butterfield was like huge.
Yeah.
When we scaled from, I would say spending like 5-7 million to get into the 8-10 million mark. I mean, she was like a pivotal.
And that's per month.
Yeah, per month. Like it was pivotal to have someone like her on the team to where it was like people would extend the extra leads to us in a exclusivity almost, because I mean, they were only creating so many leads in general, and to give every one of them to us, they were putting all their eggs in one basket. And it took a lot of advocates, not like myself. I wasn't doing a good enough job, and we really needed to have other people on our team that were advocates for us to say, hey, look, put all your eggs in this basket. Send every lead you have to Sunpro, and it'll back out right. Because when you start stretching that far, I mean, you need everything. Like we needed every lead you could generate.
I remember
you weren't able to sell to anyone else.
Yeah.
I needed to have like some type of agreement with you, whereas like any lead you create in this state, wherever it was, so maybe it was Florida, I needed exclusivity.
And remember, you give me certain markets. I need all the Tampa you could send me.
Yeah,
all the Tampa area. I want all those leads.
Tampa lead you could send me.
Yeah.
I wanted exclusivity there, or something. Just as an example. But I mean, we needed a lot of advocates on our side, and I think our executive team really saw that, where they were like, let's bring in some other people. Let's whoever we need to bring in so other vendors would trust us and say, hey, look, every lead you have, send to these people.
Wow.
You
said something crazy. So that other vendors would trust us. There's not a lot of, this is why this works so well. When you have the right buyer feeling that way, like he wanted his vendors to trust him, and usually it's the other way around.
I needed it.
You needed it, yeah.
I needed every lead you would create.
Yeah.
I didn't want you sending another lead to another installer. I needed every lead you created. And not only that, I needed every lead that 80 to 90 other vendors created.
Yeah.
We dealt on we probably had 100 vendors on Rolodex that we dealt with on a monthly basis,
Yeah.
And so we needed every lead you created.
That's great for me. It's music to my ears, especially. And I knew I had the goods. I mean, sometimes the volume was tough. I mean, there was days I sent you 300 transfers in a day.
Yeah.
I think my biggest day was 350 transfers. But
that's pretty strong.
That was strong.
Yeah. I think we were buying probably 500 to 600 transfers a day.
Yeah.
So yeah, you're probably feeding about half of that.
So we had the transfer, we had the age, we had the real, like, it was just great to have a buyer that can take that kind of volume. And it's a rare thing. In my line of business, it's hard to have the buyer. I think that.
Well, you end up having to deal with an aggregator.
Yeah, that doesn't pay, or they don't give you the reporting.
They don't.
You're not going to Disney World with them,
You're not getting the relationships. You're not getting the disposition feedback. You're also getting like that middleman that's coming back to you. That's having to make it work for another end buyer. Dealing direct is really where you want to be.
Yeah, and that's what we were able to do, and it was just a beautiful thing. And I can't emphasize enough that the beautiful thing is, and this is what I was trying to say about business. It goes. When there's a win-win at the end of the day, everybody wins, and we were able to grow. And then we went at that. I think when I started working with you, we had 4 or 5 employees. Now I'm up to 60, man.
Yeah.
And a lot that wouldn't have happened if it wasn't for me working with you at Sunpro, man.
Yeah, that's awesome.
That template that we use, I train my reps right now, do the same shit. Get to understand, get to know your buyers, the names of the kids, get to know, show genuine interest. I sent you pizza one time. I don't know what happened. Some bullshit happened right now. Like, you guys need to take some real pizza. I sent you some pizza from fucking Brooklyn to your house. Not to your house.
It was frozen pizza.
It was frozen, but like,
it still worked. It still worked.
When you're in New York, we went to Del Frisco's in New York, one of the best steakhouses. The day, I think we just made ink for the first time, 187.
With Dave Kircher.
Dave Kircher.
What an amazing resource, man.
Yeah.
That guy can run a call center like no one else.
He's killing. He's doing really well at Pointer Leads right now.
Yeah,
great guy.
He really is. If there's a name drop you could drop, I mean, that guy, he really kills it from a call center perspective.
Will, great guy, and we were together. It was 3
I
guys
remember
on my
that.
team.
Del Frisco. That was probably one of the best steaks I've ever had.
It was great.
Yeah.
So it was, and I didn't realize it till we were sitting down eating, and I felt like I feel like, especially in business and life and sales. Listen, my dad died in February 14th on his birthday.
Sorry.
Yeah, no, it's all right, but it made me think about things a lot differently. I work hard. We all work hard. And it's all for a greater good at the end of the day, right? We're doing this shit to leave a legacy so our kids are better, they have a better life and whatnot. And the point is that I really am a firm believer. When you hit fucking goals, especially in sales is not easy. You get you get fucking 10 times more no's than you get yeses. But when you get those yeses, you hit a goal, celebrate that. So we spent a lot of money that night. Got great wines. Ronan was there getting the best Argentinian fucking. It was like pouring wines.
Ronan's amazing.
Ronan's amazing. Shout out
Ronan's
Ronan
amazing.
McKay.
Yeah, shout out to Reyn.
Guy's flying private jets at a regular now. But anyway,
Absolutely amazing. Hopefully, Kircher is too.
Yeah,
If Ronan's not, Kircher
we'll
should.
get them together. We'll all get together. Do it again. We gotta do it again. But the point is, like, I realized, fuck, we got a reason to celebrate. We just made 187 Solar Direct. You guys ranked number 2 in solar power world, best installers or number in terms of top line for 2021. Let's celebrate. So we celebrated, but that was a great memory. And at the end of the day, when you can, when your people on your team are celebrating, you're celebrating, everyone's celebrating. That's beautiful. And those are the things that keep you going. It's like, it's that momentum. Sales is about momentum. You got to keep that momentum going. That little dinner, we're talking about this now, makes me fucking pumped up for tomorrow.
You need to go sell solar.
Let's go sell solar, man. So going back to that, I want to talk about what you're doing now. But before I just think your story is fascinating. What was it like to be in an environment where you went from doing 100 sales a month and so signed contracts to, was it 4,000 when you topped out? I think the number was 4,000, right? Or
yeah, we're doing about 3,000 a month,
So-
and,
but still.
and netting maybe 2,000.
Yeah.
There's a drop off there.
But still, those are massive numbers. What was the average ticket? 35, 40,000?
Yeah.
So think about those numbers. 3,000 times fucking 30, 40. That's $100 million a month, man. Somewhere around there. $100 million a month in top line revenue. That's why ADT bought you guys out for over $800 million. And you guys were a well-oiled machine. I mean, the call center, leads, salespeople.
I think there's very few companies that are fully integrated like Sunpro was.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, even like your Titans, or hate to drop a name, but even like your companies like that are sales org driven. I mean, Sunpro actually had a call center, set leads, created appointments, had a sales team, ran appointments. I mean, they were fully integrated down to a W-2 install crew.
Mm-hmm.
There was no subs.
Wow.
I feel like
It's a rare thing.
I don't know anyone that can really compete with that, and so that's the playbook that I have taken, and I feel like there's this, and even more so from a lead gen standpoint, like I'm creating my own leads, doing my own call center, doing the whole thing, full funnel. There's just not a lot of solar companies that are out there doing that. I feel like a lot of solar companies are dependent on relationships. So either they have a sales org, or maybe they have a lead gen partner, or maybe they have a call center partner or a BPO they're working with. There's not a lot of solar companies that are fully integrated to where it's like, I create my own lead on a web page. I dial that lead. I set that appointment. I create the opportunity. I do everything. I send a field sales rep out there. I install that glass on the roof and I commission it. Yeah. There's not a lot of people doing that, man. Like I think that was a separator for Sunpro, is that Sunpro, while they didn't create their own lead in every aspect, they were full funnel completely through.
Yeah.
And really, like, I mean, kind of name another solar entity that's like that, like it's hard to do that.
I agree.
Yeah, they're not out there. They don't exist. And if they do, I mean, it's like they're very mom and pop. They're not 3,000 employees, 4,000 employees, like creating that amount of appointments. So
yeah, that's crazy.
It was very special what we created.
Yeah.
So.
And I think we keep talking about the playbook, right? I had the playbook for leads and call centers.
Yeah.
And you use that playbook at Sunpro, and then you had the playbook. You understood the playbook that you learned there in terms of all the other. There's a lot of aspects in solar, man. There's like fucking. This is why a lot of solar companies go out of business too, is because there's so many different components. There's so many different costs involved, and you got to understand those. And you got to understand those. I mean, you were there 5 years, whatever, 4 or 5 years. So now going to where you're at now, what you're doing now, your next iteration, you're running Tren Solar, right? And Tren Solar is focused here in Louisiana, but you're starting to make some waves here. Yeah, I met the team today. You're in Arkansas.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, you're in Arkansas, and you're welcome. That was a pleasure for me. I mean, I say that shit from the bottom of my heart. I'm in your office today, and I see. Listen, it's a startup, but you guys are making moves over there. You're signing deals. You got guys coming in and flying in from Arkansas over here because you're in Arkansas, Mississippi, Louisiana, Texas. This is exciting for me. When I see that shit, this is what capital is. This is what the work environment, the startup environment's about. I've seen this play. I've seen this. I'm 45 years old. I've seen this happen multiple times in my career. The same thing I'm seeing now, I've seen happen 4, 5, 6 times where they had the playbook, they had the right people, pushed it together, and then boom, it happened. So I feel like you're about to do that now. So I'm super excited for you, man.
Thank you, sir.
So let's talk about Tren. Where does Tren? Where's the name derived from? Tren.
So
and Tren means train in Spanish, and trains don't go backwards; they go forward, right?
Hey, we're only going forward. Trains don't go back. We're only going. So Tren is it's my name and our my counterpart's name. So my partner Trey.
Okay.
So Trey and Reyn combined is Tren. It's just something that's kind of spawned. Like, it was one of those things where we had customers direct for like 3 years. We were selling.
That was a call center, right?
Yeah, call centers, selling leads, doing things to like other sales orgs, like, even yourself. Like we sold to aggregators and people that would resell our data. And, last year we kind of got remnants of like, we kind of heard that ADT might have been fizzling out. And so it was one of those things where we wanted to enter the market and try to pick out some of our old salesmen that used to be there. And so, last year we started, not selling to aggregators. We started setting appointments for ourselves. And, it just kind of spawned into this whole thing where it was like, why actually sell a lead? I started to see it now. It's like, why get
a bigger
rid of
piece of the pie? Yeah,
why get rid of that customer? Let's monetize it. Let's go ahead and put glass on the roof. Let's do the install ourselves, And it was a very pivotal point for us to where it was like, we're not selling a $35 lead anymore. We're selling a $50,000 solar system.
Yeah.
And it was a very quick move to where now, I mean, like I said, last year, we were already ranked. We only started installing in the fourth quarter, and we were already ranked in the Inc. 5000.
That's amazing.
And it speaks to you saying we have the playbook, but from a lead gen perspective and everything, I mean, we'll be a contender this year.
I'm sure you will be.
Just right off the bat, we'll be a contender, and it's exciting to see that. With a new team and understanding like. What your hire rate is, what your attrition rate is, knowing like how to overcome that to hit your sales goal. I mean, we've already been there. We've done it at a very large scale, and to do it at like the scale we're doing it at now is, I'm not gonna say it's easy, but I mean it's like, it's very doable.
It's easier.
It's very
easier.
Yeah. So when we were buying leads from you. I was trying to create between 1,000 and 1,500 appointments a day.
Okay.
So some days we create 1,500, like on a Monday when we had like a lot of
How
data.
many dials were you making a day at the time?
So every agent, well, I mean, we were millions of dials.
Wow, that's crazy. Because everyone understands that 1,000 to 1,500 appointments a day. Depends.
I mean, we were millions of dials.
It was
we
crazy.
were like every agent digested 400 contacts a day.
Yeah.
So they would talk to 400 homeowners a day.
It's amazing.
Every agent in our call center on the co-reg side.
Times like 800, 900 agents.
Yeah. I mean, like, dude, it just got. But anyway, so going back to that, we would try to book about 1,000 appointments a day. And to do so, I mean, you really had to have a lot of vendors out there, a lot of people like helping you,
And I think it goes back to, as a business owner, you got to know your numbers. How to get to whatever goal that is. I mean, obviously you have to hit 1,000 appointments. You had a certain math. How many sales is that going to lead up to on a daily basis? How many presentations? How many sits? How many closes? Then you have to cancel all that. You have to know every aspect. And the thing with solar is that there are so many freaking components. I mean, I've had clients, I don't know if it still is this way, but back in the day, they put up big numbers, but half the people would cancel. So you got those clawbacks. And the fucked up part was that they'd pay the commissions on it, and then the person would cancel, and they're like, what the hell, right? So a lot of that kind of all those moving parts without having the right people in the right seat, without having the right CFO, or without having someone tracking all this stuff would cause these companies to go out of business, man. And, you know,
Well,
it's a lot of moving parts with solar. It really is.
We're coming in at a different time. Like
Yeah.
I will say, like, you know, the structure that Sunpro had probably wouldn't allow us to be successful in the environment that it is today. You know, you have to be a lot leaner from an executive standpoint, just because of the profit margins being pushed out further. Like right now, like our profits are being pushed out, like for the most part, past PTO. Like you have to get permission to operate. Back in the day, you just get glass on a roof and you can get money. And it just changes things a lot.
You'll get advanced the money pretty much, right? So,
Yeah.
so everyone understands. So when they sign the contract, let's say I'm Joe Smith that lives somewhere in New Orleans, right? Downtown or whatever. Right? And I don't know if solar's feasible down there, but anyway, let's say it was, I signed the contract. Then once you guys get the contract, you guys will get paid in advance. You will get X amount of money. It was like M1s, M2, M3, that kind of shit, right?
Yeah. So you might get like 30% at contract signing. And then the other 70% at glass on the roof. And there was nothing at PTO. So you had a lot of companies out there that, you know, the horror stories of never getting permission to operate. Like, you know, they have glass on the roof and they've never actually had their solar turned on because the entity has already been paid.
Yeah.
The game's completely changed now to where it's like, you're not getting paid until you get the permission to operate, you know? And, it was by definition, a lot of companies, and Sunpro and ADT didn't fall into this, but a lot of companies would call it a lean forward, where they would just go out and do the work, put the glass on the roof, get paid, and not have permission to operate for months and months, you know, and then maybe even that homeowner never get that, you know, and because that company went out of business. Yeah, that I think that's why they stopped it. Yeah, it's like, no, you have to get to permission to operate before you start getting paid. So it's a game changer. Your profits are pushed out further than they used to be. But if you're coming into the market now, that's all you know. Yeah. So I mean, like, you know, it's the norm for us. You know, it would have been hard to digest, like as a company that had been started previous, but now it's like, this is the new norm.
Well, I think that's what gives companies like you, or I mean, you're probably a rare one, where you really have a competitive advantage because you see all those angles, right? You got the playbook, and you're starting the business, or you started the business during this kind of different kind of environment, and you know how to adapt in this environment. You know how to do it. Yeah.
And it's having the capital. Like, I mean, like how many new entities can start out today and float 90 days worth of installs, you know, or whatever the case might be, you know? I mean, as being a new entity just coming out of the gates, it's like, hey, I want to do installs this week and I'm not getting a permission to operate until 100 days from now. How do I float that money? Yeah. So I think that it changes the game in that aspect to where it's like, you have to have someone that either invests in you, or you have to have a large amount of capital that's coming into the game to start off. Yeah, absolutely. So what, for anyone that's listening that's in this area, right, or people that want to partner up, it sounds like sales orgs have a big, there's a lot of synergy between you guys and sales orgs, right? If, like, say you're licensed in 13 states, right? Yeah. So if there's a sales org, like give us a random state that you're licensed in right like
now.
Like a Florida.
Like a Florida.
Like a Florida. Okay. Like a Florida right now. Like if there's a, like, you know, Titan going under is a big name.
And by the way, Titan was the #1 residential solar installer in the country. They just went out of business, I think, this week or last week, right? Recently. Yeah. So now what's going on? Listen, people gotta make money. This is what I like about business. It's like Wall Street. Money does not ever stop. It just rotates, right? If oil starts tanking, people take money out of oil, they're putting it somewhere else. Maybe they're putting it in crypto, or they're putting into commercial real estate, whatever. But it's always a rotation going on. So people got to pay their bills. People got to feed their families is what it comes down to. So if Titan goes out of business, these guys are scrambling. What the fuck do I do next?
Well, I mean,
so
who's their installer? Yeah. You know, I mean, you've had people legitimately go out and create their own call centers, their own sales teams, their own like full sales organizations, to where they're not integrated to where they have like their own electrician and own install crew, but they have a call center. they're expensing and commissions. They have sales reps. They have regional reps. They have all of these things that they've invested in. And now someone like Titan going out of business can't install for them anymore. Who's their installer? Who's their partner? You know, they need someone that has the right playbook, that knows all of the right things to do. That's going to get them to commission faster than anyone else. Going to get
how fast? How long does it take to get paid?
So right now we're probably installing, like, if someone sends a contract today, like, well, in the state of Florida, if someone sends a contract today, they'd probably be installed within the next 2 weeks.
Wow.
Like, I mean,
It's
like,
fast.
I would even say in the state of Louisiana, which is the most prominent state for us, I mean, we're probably 15, 20 days out. I mean, we're not far off the 2 weeks. We have a lot of crews that have come to us since the closure of ADT, and we've picked up a lot of laborists that are just ready to work. You know, they're ready to get on a roof, they're ready to install glass, they're ready to be that electrician for them, and it's just making sure that we have the work for them.
Yeah,
so
that's amazing. And God, this is. I hope the audience really listen to this, because what happened here was that Sunpro started in 2008, 2009 in a home. 2, 3, 4 people, blew up to, you know, fast forward 10, 12 years later, 3,000, 4,000 people, $1 billion plus in revenue, right? Sells to ADT, Home Security, publicly traded company. And then a year or two later, they have to unwind that business, pretty much take a loss on that, right? But what happens is that everyone needs to find a job. The money doesn't stop. Money doesn't sleep. And guess what? Someone like Reyn here at Tren Solar, who's nimble, that knows the playbook, that's his advantage. So that's the beauty, that all those years of experience going before Sunpro, you're analytical, right? You're an athlete, competitive nature, analytical. You're in solar, putting pieces of puzzle together. You're part of a wild ride that goes from, I don't know how many employees were there with you at the time, maybe 100 to, like, you more than 10x there in terms of revenue and employee count. All that experience, and now you happen to be at the right place at the right time, because ADT made this acquisition, didn't work out for whatever reason. Now that falls in your lap. This is what life's about. Every fucking thing you do in life, you prepare yourself for that next move. It's like a game of chess. It's not checkers. Would you agree with that? What's your feedback? I know I said a lot, but I find this fascinating.
I believe it. I believe it. It's like you said, I mean, in the right time, at the right place, you know, and the Sunpro did so much for so many people here locally. You know, I mean, locally, people from Southern Louisiana would not be involved in this vertical, you know, and to be able to immerse like these type of individuals into the vertical of solar is huge, you know, because you do understand like the revenue of it and the money side. It's a very big ticket item.
Yeah.
And you know, it's a novelty item. Like, a lot of people don't know about it. So when you call someone and you talk to someone, they want to learn more. And I think Mark really showed that to a lot of people. It's like, you know, in these states that we're, you know, the piece of the puzzle that everyone wants.
Yeah.
It's a novelty item.
Yeah. And I think the other aspect is
it's the low hanging fruit.
Yeah. And I think the other aspect, you guys weren't afraid to go into uncharted territory.
Well, no, that was the low hanging fruit. Yeah. Like, an uncharted territory is by definition a low hanging fruit. Yeah. You know, it's like, hey, no one's in Georgia. Well, let's go to Georgia. Yeah. You know, and you go over there.
Georgia. That was such a great state, man.
Fuck Georgia.
No, I mean, but no, in a good way.
I'm trying to get him to move there.
I meant to say no. Fuck, like Georgia. You just reminded me. I meant that in a good way.
Yeah,
I love Georgia.
Oh, I forgot about Georgia. No one's there. Of course.
Georgia was great. You guys had the Valdosta. Is that Valdosta?
Valdosta.
That area was crushing.
You're close. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Valdosta. Whatever. Yeah. That area was unbelievable. I'm like, I would tell my team, we need more leads in Valdosta. This area is killing. Savannah, Valdosta, man. And I didn't understand. I'm like, Ren's looking at his team in the background here, but like, it blew me away, and that was a beautiful thing that we would had everything category. We had sub IDs, we had region, so we would pull reports. Okay, you did 10,000 spend in this part of Georgia. You got maybe 10 sales, 1,000. Crank that.
How good was Ahmed?
Ahmed was amazing. Ahmed Mohammed, shout out Ahmed, man.
Yeah, Ahmed.
Was he in Serbia or somewhere?
Yeah, Ahmed.
Yo, you got a round of applause, Ahmed. Let's fucking go, baby.
Hey, Ahmed was the best. So you when you talk about data and reporting and things like that, I mean, look, Colleen and I did the best we could do. Colleen is probably the best resource from a marketing aspect that you can get in States.
Yeah.
Ahmed is probably next best, but he's international, you know, and that's just how it is.
Yeah.
He was an absolute, like, I mean, amazing resource from sub IDs to tracking to, I just don't know how you quantify what he did for us, you know?
No, it's huge.
Yeah.
It made my job a lot easier, man.
Yeah, I just don't know how you quantify that. I mean, he did absolute just amazing job at data feedback or disposition feedback and real time. Just, I mean, the guy, he actually made us prosper more than anyone else knows.
Yeah.
You know?
He was huge. He came on board and that helped. He was like the glue. I mean, I know you were amazing, but as you guys grew, you were pulled in a million different directions.
I was pulled. I was pulled. And we needed a great communicator, and you know, that's why we brought Colleen on board, is because, you know, just, I mean, Colleen is just an absolute, you know, great communicator. You know, conveys, like, she can deal with your partners very well, and everything that, you know, dealing with you and Solar Direct marketing team, she did well with. Ahmed was a great resource from a technical aspect, you know, like any disposition feedback you needed. I mean, it was just we built a really good team, man. Like, it was amazing. It was amazing how it all evolved together, you know.
And that's the reason you got bought out for close to $1 billion, because you had the right team. I mean, that helps. If you, but
the thing is, like, you build a team like that, but they're all LeBron Jameses.
Yeah.
And it's like, how do you,
dream team.
Yeah, but how do you sustain that payroll?
Yeah.
You know, and so someone like ADT comes in, they're a corporate company, and they're trying to regulate, and they're trying to understand, like, how things should actually work. And, you know, it's very hard to pay, you know, 5 LeBron Jameses on the court, you know, at the same time, you know, and so everyone wanted to make a ton of money. Everyone was an entrepreneur. And ADT was like, no, you're a service role, you know, you're a support role. You're someone that's going to come in and you're going to help him. You're going to help the LeBron James, but you're not going to be the LeBron James. And we're like, no, we're all LeBron James, you know? And so that's why I think that's why it kind of dissolved the way it did, because Mark built a team that was full of all-stars.
And it's like cultural shift. I mean, the culture is everything at the end of the day. You guys gelled. You had a piece of you had a puzzle that gelled, it fit perfectly, and then, you know, it gets unwound. It's hard to put that back together.
Yeah. It wasn't. Yeah, we could never reconstruct what they had already pulled apart. You know what I mean?
The beautiful thing is that, I mean, you were able to go through that. I've had experiences similar, not in that size that you had in terms of, you know, valuation, but everyone listening, all these experiences add up to something, and that you never know what's going to be that big thing. And for you, I feel like you're on that right now. You know, you're on it with your solar company. And,
well, thank you.
No, I really do. I felt.
I remember you coming in and saying that same stuff at Sunpro.
Yeah,
you're like, dude,
it happened.
Dude, you're gonna do it, and I'm like, all right, yeah, we're gonna do it.
Yeah, and you fucking did it.
No, I know, I know.
I'm good luck for that shit. I'm telling you,
man.
I've
hope
only
you
been
are,
wrong,
man.
maybe, I think I'm batting like 800 on that shit.
Yeah, because you come in and I'm like, all right, well, I mean, Stody says we're going to do it. We're going to do it.
No, but success leaves clues.
Okay.
Big, that's something Tony Robbins says, and I really believe in that. You got the team, man. You're in a region that needs it, right? I believe we're going to hit some economic headwinds very fast that are going to make people want to go solar, and you know how to monetize leads. You know what you want to do. You're in markets where it makes sense in your states, and it's only going to grow. You got people flying in from different states for a reason, right? They believe in it. And it comes down to, at the end of the day, you got the track record. So follow the track record. And sales is a fucking numbers game at the end of the day. So if you get the right salespeople that know how to close,
you brought that up earlier.
Yeah.
Because it resonates with every sales rep that sales is a numbers game. Mm-hmm. I mean, you're going to get so many no's before you get the yes, but it's just getting through the sales fatigue and the adversity of, like, getting through that and saying, hey, look, I got the yes. I got the yes. Now let me get through all those no's again. Yeah.
Every no gets you one step closer to that yes.
Yeah. And it just, I felt it from everyone in the room. They were like, you know what? You're right. Yeah. I just got to get through the no's, and then I'm going to hit my yes, and then it's going to be money.
That's why I love sales, man. Yeah. It's the equalizer. I always say it. I'll fucking say it till I'm dead. Right before I die, it's a fucking equalizer in society, man. But the fact that you're able to do this and get a bunch of people in here, they can change their lives. Sales changed my life. right? And what you were doing, maybe you didn't think you were doing so, but you're working. We were selling. We're trying to help each other out. And when sales is both people win, that's what matters, man. That's what counts, man.
Dude, the win-win thing has never resonated with me more. It really hasn't. It has never resonated with me more than anything you've probably said to me. It's because you live by it.
Yeah, you have to.
Yeah.
It becomes your kind of your major principle. So for Tren Solar, man, what do you see? Where do you see you guys doing? Where do you see expansion? Where do you see you see it become another Sunpro? You see it becoming something like that? Like what's the end goal here?
I think it's so young to know or to understand like what it could become.
Yeah.
You know, right now we're just trying to follow the playbook that we already have. Open up in a couple states, like, you know, we're in Mississippi, Louisiana, Arkansas, and Texas. You know, the ideal is like just to be a profitable company and grow, you know, incrementally. You know, the hyper growth button is so attractive.
Yeah.
But to push it is so scary.
Yeah.
And so I understand that. You know, we've went through that. We've pushed the hyper growth button. You know, we've done that at Sunpro. But I feel like this time it's going to be a little different travel, a little different route, a little more conservative, and but more sustainable. You know, it's like one of those things where it's like, you know, we're gonna go easy as it comes and grow it conservatively.
Yeah.
So
I like that. And for everyone that's listening to this, I mean, everyone wants to grow. It's exciting to grow. I've been there too, you know, but it comes with a lot of freaking headaches. I mean, I had a guy I work with, he exited for a lot of money, like 9 figures. He was like, I just want to grow and grow and grow. But the problem is when you're growing, when you want to do that, it's like a Lamborghini or Ferrari going 150 miles an hour. Everything's fine. Everything feels good. But when you hit that fucking pothole, you can crash the whole car, right? Yeah.
I'm not saying like, you know, to enable growth, we'll certainly like probably have like a round of funding or do something like that. But it's one of those things where, you know, we're not trying to push too fast, too hard. You know, I think that solar is a big ticket item, and from a gross sales revenue standpoint, you can do pretty well being very structured and small, you know, if you're lean. So from an executive standpoint, you know, you don't want to have a lot of support roles. You don't have a lot of executive staff. But if you manage it well from a payroll standpoint, I think that we could do great in this first year. And then after that, next solar season will probably be the real big push. Yeah. You know, next solar season, you know, we're licensed in 13 states. I think that that would be the next big push is where, you know, next March, next April, we open up in a new 3 to 5 markets.
Yeah. This is great. What you're saying is it's maturity is what it is. And you've been through everything. You've seen it, man. You had success. And now you're doing it on your own. And my last question to you, what was that transition like from, you know, at ADT, you know, you're an employee, you had stock options, and all that stuff. Like, what was that transition like from being an employee, growing a company, and when, you know, how it exited and going through all that, to like starting your own company, and there's different types of pressure, right?
Yeah, there is. I mean, like, you know, I as an employee and as a you know, at the end as being an equity owner, it was one of those things where it was like, you know, you want to make sure that they're handed off with the right product. You know, we want to make sure that we are putting what we or giving them what we promised them. And I really felt like that with ADT. I mean, we gave them everything that we had promised them from a company standpoint, and so I felt fulfilled there, and so that's kind of why I left. After that, like after I kind of gave them the playbook in a sense. You know, it was time to kind of turn to my own initiative, you know, and so that's why we started doing this. And you know, I feel like we put them off on a good foot.
Just because you give someone the playbook doesn't mean they're gonna actually orchestrate it correctly. You got to really orchestrate it properly. That's the secret sauce.
Yeah, it is.
It's like when I was at Tony Robbins, he talks about the world's. There's a guy that can, or I don't know, a guy or girl, a surgeon that can make the perfect face. He can do a surgery, and that perfect face is like one little millimeter difference in like this area or that area. But that's why that guy who makes a perfect face gets paid $20 million a year versus a regular plastic surgeon that gets $1 or $2 million a year. He knows a little tweak, right? And it's like having the recipe. They say put a dash of this fucking spice in that recipe to make the best chicken or whatever. But a dash to the right dash might be a quarter milliliter. Was you don't know. It's like you got to have that extra spice, and that spice means the culture which you guys created, and you can't replicate a fucking culture, especially in sales, man. So if you ask me from the outside looking, I think that's what it was. You agree with that or no?
I do. I think from a culture standpoint, changing blue to orange was hard.
Mm-hmm.
If you can define that.
Mm-hmm.
You know, ADT came in, everything was blue. We were orange before that. So, you know, from a culture standpoint, we bled orange.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it was world domination.
Yeah.
And so, you know, to have a corporate company come in, instill their own brand, instill their own color, do those things, it was just, it defeated everything.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I get it. That's some deep stuff, man. A lot of people don't talk about this, and that's the value of our show, that we try to get deep in there and talk about. We're talking about business, and business to me, small business is the economic engine of America. Small businesses create so many jobs and livelihoods and everything, right? So everyone think it looks easy from the outside in, but it's not. There's a lot of blood, sweat, and tears. And I merged my company in 2022. At first, it was like, what the fuck? It was a lot of kind of like it was stressful. Right? I'm like, why the fuck did I did it?
But you know,
it took some
like
time.
you have those speeches where it's like, who are we?
Yeah.
You know, and world domination. It's like, you know,
that's the best ever.
we're this, you know, and it's like when you change that brand, it changes a lot. And I think it cascaded to all of our sales reps. It went down to everyone, to door knockers, to call center agents, to where it was like the brand changed.
Yeah.
So it's hard to change the brand.
So with Tren Solar, right? I like what I see. I see this. I kind of see what we talked about. Sunpro was in the beginning. Like you're replicating that, right?
I am.
Yeah.
Look. There's a lot that feeds off of orange. You know, I mean, it's a bright color. I mean, from a, you know,
Solar Direct's orange too. I just realized that. Man.
Yeah. Hey, look. I mean, you might have seen our orange trucks in your neighborhood.
Connection Holdings too. Yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah, it resonates with solar.
Yeah.
So I mean, like, there's no reason
sun,
to not do it. Yeah.
It makes sense. Well, listen, Ren, this was a way different interview than I've done from everybody else.
Well,
Usually,
obviously.
yeah, we got the alligators here, we got the beers. But listen, the point is that everyone, they come on the show, we're talking about selling leads, we're talking about KPIs and all that and how we do. But from this, you being from the buyer perspective, also the pub side, you understand all aspects. And now you have your own installer company. You're going to have an installer network. This eventually is going to become. I think we got to do a part 2 6 months or a year from now and see where we are. We will. That way we can see we got the fucking golden touch. I'm telling you, I'm batting 800 on my it's like Babe Ruth when he hit that home run. See, he pointed to center field, hit the fucking home run. You guys are going to be a home run. I feel it. I think when we do this next time, you're going to be doing triple, quadruple, 5X.
We should.
Let's fucking go.
We should.
Let's do it.
Really should, man. I think we're both competitors, and we understand that. So yeah,
I love it, man.
Let's do it, man.
And from the bottom of my heart, man, thank you for. Again, I wouldn't be where I am without you, man.
Thank you, sir.
Partnerships like you,
same thing.
You know, and it evolved. It went from being not only just a partner, to being a real friendship. We talk about personal stuff.
Yeah,
we had our families get together, our wives like each other, our kids have gotten together. It's a beautiful thing, and that to me is what. Everyone talks about business, about making. It's not about, and it's called the LFG show. I talk a lot about making money for the sizzle, but this is what transcends it. I think that's what I was trying to say before. When you have a relationship like this, and listen, my dad passed away in February, man. I'm trying to think. I want to spend time with people I like doing business with. I don't want to be. I can make a lot of money with a dickhead, a douchebag, but fuck that guy. My time is limited. I want to be spending time with people I enjoy, and I always enjoy being with you, man. You're like a real person, man.
Thank you, sir.
So fucking love it, man. We're gonna fucking kill this shit. Fucking go, baby.
Thank you.
Tren Solar.
Thank you.
Thank you, man.
Great episode.